Hey YouTube, Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's topic isn't necessarily a pleasant one, but it is one that is a reality of keeping fish, or really keeping any kind of pet for that matter. And some of you have asked about the Otopharynx tetrastigma, and of course that's a fish that was very dear to me because I raised him up from a small fry, from like a 1.5 inch fry. I watched him go through the transition of being a little silvery gray fish that showed promise, and then watched him bloom into this gorgeous specimen of an Otopharynx tetrastigma. A lot of you have even told me that you were inspired or motivated to go out and get one because you had seen the one in my tank. Well, you know, he was pretty old and he had taken a bit of a beating in the 150. I put him into a tank by himself where he seemed to recover okay. And then I put him in the 100 behind me, and the next morning he was gone. So he is no longer around, and so I'm sorry to report. And he certainly had a great run. He was certainly a beautiful fish, and I will be looking for another one. I would love to grow out another one. They certainly are spectacular fish. Over the years, of course, I've had other fish that I've been, that were very special to me, including a Fusco. I had many, a few years back, also a Bucanoto, Bucochromis nototania that was just absolutely gorgeous, and who didn't really show any outward symptoms, and no other fish in the tank did. He just turned over and died. Of course, some of you who know my channel and follow the channel know that I had my first cichlid ever, lasted a very, very long time. The old man, I used to call him, and that was my my OB orange blossom or orange blotch, depending who you talk to. Beautiful fish, lasted quite a while, became very close and dear to me. But when I encountered some Colomaris in the tanks, his system couldn't fight it. Other fish did and survived, but he didn't. He was already very, very old, and he more or less just tipped over. So it is part of the hobby to lose fish. It's never easy, and what's the alternative? Not have pets at all. Certainly when you lose a dog, as you know, I have a beagle that's getting close to the end of her life, and I've lost dogs before. That's never easy. So it's part of the hobby, and so I just wanted to give you an update. I didn't want to necessarily hide it from you or just sort of skim over it and hope you don't notice. So between that and the polystigma, I've had a few setbacks here in the last year. But overall, when you consider the full stock of fish that I have and the fact that I keep fish that are particularly aggressive, I would say that I'm doing okay. But it's not easy. It's not easy when you lose a fish. The polystigma also was lost to aggression. He was the tank boss for a very long time, and the Venusis and the Fusco took over and wouldn't let up on him. And I isolated him, pulled him out to recover, and he never really fully recovered. So part of the hobby, certainly you have that X factor of injury from aggression when you have African cichlids. Not something you would necessarily experience with community fish. And this is why a while back I released a video that talked about how maybe African cichlids are not for you. They do require a certain amount of temperament, and there are some fish keepers that I followed over the years who simply got out of African cichlids. They didn't want to deal with the factors related to aggression. It's one thing to keep your tanks in perfect condition, but then you have that X factor, which for some people is just too stressful. And I get it, I understand it. So anyway, that's the update on the Otopharynx tetrastigma. I will miss that fish. He was a great fish, probably up around 7 inches. He was probably about as big as a tetrastigma can get, maybe even a little bigger than that. So we move on. I'm probably going to end up ordering another one, and because I love having that fish around, and probably have him live in the tank behind me here and live his life in the 100. Okay, so that's it for me for now, and thank you so much for tuning in. And for those of you that support the channel and are part of the Convo gang by hitting that bell and subscribing, I thank you. For those of you who have been enduring the live streams on Saturday, I appreciate you coming by and supporting that effort. Okay, so thank you so much. Bye-bye.